According to the Bible, Jesus was nailed to the cross and died, and 3 days later, the Spirit of Jesus came out of death into life. For 3 days, he preached the gospel to the spirits in prison. These were the spirits of those who did not believe and obey God at the time of Noah's flood judgment. They were imprisoned for 2,400 years until the Spirit of Jesus went to the prison in the spirit world and met them. Upon hearing the words of Jesus, the spirits that came out of prison became the spirits of the New Testament dominion and were set free. The spirits who did not listen to Jesus and did not come out of prison are still there. If you hear and obey God's word, the word plays the role of life, so you come out of death right into the realm of life. The gospel that Jesus preached for 3 days in the spirit world continued to be preached through the spirits who heard the gospel in the spirit world. And the gospel that Jesus preached for 3.5 years in the physical world also continued to be preached on earth through Jesus' disciples. By hearing the gospel, those imprisoned in the spirit world came out, and those who were in the realm of death in the physical world returned to the realm of life. 3 days after Jesus died on the cross, the Spirit of Jesus met the disciples. At that time, the disciples knew that it was the Spirit of Jesus. The Jesus that Peter and the disciples saw and the Jesus that the Apostle Paul saw were both spirits. In 1 Peter chapter 3 verse 18, Peter writes, "For Christ also suffered once for sins, the righteous for the unrighteous, to bring you to God. He was put to death in the body, but made alive in the spirit, in whom he also went and preached to the spirits in prison." Jesus, who appeared to Apostle Paul in Acts chapter 22 verses 6 to 8, was also a spirit, not a body. Apostle Paul was evangelized through the Spirit of Jesus after Jesus died on the cross. He was going to Damascus to persecute those who believe in Jesus, but Jesus appeared and said, "Saul, why are you persecuting me?" He was blinded by the light emanating from Jesus' body. He became blind for a moment. Saul was shocked and confused, not knowing what to do. Jesus said to him, "If you want to be healed, receive prayers from Ananias." After receiving prayer from Ananias and being baptized according to these words, Apostle Paul was able to see again, and he knew that Jesus was the Messiah. If Jesus had died on the cross and the body had come back to life, they would have recognized it right away when the body of Jesus appeared. But the disciples did not recognize Jesus at once because he appeared as a spirit. If Jesus' body had been revived, Jesus would have continued to preach the gospel with his disciples in his physical body. However, after Jesus died on the cross, no one has ever seen Jesus in the flesh. When Jesus died on the cross, the disciples who followed Jesus wept and mourned so much. If Jesus' body was alive, he would appear to his disciples and say, "My body is alive. Come with me. Don't worry. There's nothing God cannot do. Let's go. Let's spread the gospel with me. Let's make history." When Jesus died, Mary, the mother of Jesus, must have been very grieved, singing how ignorant and cruel people poured out all their anger, inflicting dramatic pain on Jesus and brutally killing him. How resentful and unfair she must have felt as a mother. Jesus watched them all in spirit. If Jesus' body had come back to life, he would have appeared right in front of his mother, Mary. In Luke chapter 24, on the 3rd day after Jesus died, Mary Magdalene and another Mary went to see Jesus' tomb, and 2 angels in white rolled away the stone from the tomb and said, "Jesus is not here. He came back to life. Just as Jesus said, he went to Galilee ahead of you. Tell this to the disciples and to all." Jesus appeared to the disciples, said a few words in the middle of the room, "Peace be with you," and then disappeared. Above all, if Jesus' body had been alive before he died, the places he had been pierced with spears and the wound on his whole body would not have healed yet. So, wouldn't it be necessary to treat them? Would a stab wound that would kill a person heal in 3 days? Also, if the body of Jesus had been alive, he would have appeared to those who brutally killed Jesus and showed himself to them. However, because Jesus was resurrected as a spirit, he was visible only to his disciples. The disciples all realized that it was the spirit of Jesus, and they wept again, saying, "A person dies once, and that's it." And they went back to their jobs. Because Jesus is a spirit, he had to leave the earth, so he ascended into heaven. As recorded in Acts chapter 1 verse 11, then 2 angels in white stood beside the disciples and said, "This Jesus, who was taken up from you into heaven, will come in the same way as you saw him go into heaven." Jesus is a spirit, and he went to a distant place that is more than 15 billion light years away. After Jesus ascended to heaven, the disciples waited day and night, shouting that Jesus would return as promised. This gospel was preached for 2,000 years, and those who believed in Jesus waited for the second coming of Jesus for a long time. After Jesus died on the cross, over 10 billion people believed in Jesus for 2,000 years, but no one saw Jesus in the flesh. Everyone saw the spirit of Jesus. Jesus said to me, "Everyone says that my body is alive again. Has anyone seen my body?" From the 3 days after Jesus died on the cross until 2,000 years have passed, has anyone seen my flesh? You will not be able to meet me as you wait for the second coming in the flesh. Only those who believe that my spirit is alive and resurrected will welcome Jesus, who returns as a spirit. Preach the gospel I have taught you, and let's have a 1,000-year wedding feast with me. If you preach this gospel, people will come like clouds. Let's ride on clouds of people with me and save them as brides of this age. Jesus came again as a spirit. He came with the Almighty Son of heaven. If you think that the body of Jesus is alive, you wait only for the body, and you will not be able to welcome the Holy Son or the Spirit of Jesus who returns with him. You must know that the Spirit is alive, so you can welcome the Spirit of Jesus and the second coming of the Holy Son. It is the second coming of the Spirit. At the second coming, the Spirit of Jesus comes again. He comes with the Almighty Son. Therefore, do not wait for the flesh of Jesus, but receive the Spirit of Jesus. Only when we welcome the Spirit of Jesus, who has returned with the Holy Son, do we become bride of the age and hold the 1,000-year wedding banquet. If you do not know this, Satan will intervene, and you will not be able to welcome the second coming when the Spirit of Jesus will come using the flesh.